Adam Pleb, so we're here with the YCS of Seattle 2017 breakdown, and I'm basically just going to be giving my thoughts and opinions on this. So as you can see here, I've divided down the pie chart into as few variants as possible. I really wanted to properly analyze this just because of the fact that it's a completely new format, and it's basically the first new major event of said new format. Now, the first thing that will probably jump off towards your screen right off the bat here that you'll notice is no Blue Eyes top. So thankfully that deck hasn't snuck in again randomly at another event. So first and foremost, let's just get something really fucking clear here, okay? Let's just get that out of the way, right? There's no fucking Blue Eyes for once. Now, in all seriousness, let's kind of just look at this. So I think it goes without any sort of doubt whatsoever that there is basically a zoo format being part of the meta that's just it's not going anywhere. Let's be really honest with ourselves. Now, 30 of the 32 decks in Top Cut played a zoo engine, but despite this, it's still extremely diverse for the most part. Now, it's important to take into consideration the fact that how you define tier 0 and how you define what constitutes a meta where there is essentially only one playable deck kind of depends on an archetype itself. Now, Zoo is unique in itself because it's not so much a full archetype like Pepe was last year, where that took something like 25, probably more. I think there was 26 or 27, I want to say, is how many Pepe variants there were. So that includes, just perhaps not all the same deck, but for the most part, you could assume that for the Pepe variants, about 30 cards were going to be the same. Now, this format is, we know exactly how many 15 or 10 to 15 cards are going to be. We know that you're going to have, 6 to 12 cards in your extra deck being essentially just the exact same. We know that you're going to be playing 3 Rat, 3 Barrage, 3 Terror Top. Well, maybe not the Barrage, but at least 3 Rat, 3 Terror Top in your main deck and Attack of Tomborg. So every deck in the entire game currently that you can really expect to play against at a major event will have 7 cards that are identical to one another. And it's always going to be this one variant in this one engine. Now, which engine is the best? At least from what we can see from YCS Seattle, Kaiju and Pure tend to be very, very high up there. And I've tried to break this down as best as I can. So for Pure Zoo, from this kind of perspective, it's hard to really kind of tell what exactly Pure Zoo is. It's a deck that has the Zoo engine, but for the most part is traps and hand traps, but nothing really else to complement that engine there. You're going to be maxing out on the things like your Through Blade and stuff and just generate advantage that way, hoping to draw into your traps and ditching your Rat and then bringing it back with Tiger Mortar and doing all these kind of combos. Kaiju Zoo, of course, focusing on the fact that you can basically break any board whatsoever in the game. You can out anything and then set up your own board. If you're not OTKing them for any particular reason, you're at least going to be falling back on a strike or a debarrier or something to that effect, and some kind of form of disruption. That's essentially how this deck wins. And these two decks essentially make up the vast bulk of the meta, 2/3. Now, it's going to be interesting going forward to see how the other variants do, because as you can see here, there's a lot of kind of, I guess you could call them surprising, because of the fact that there is just so little showing. Meadowfoe Zoo, for example, has one single top, just one lone top, which I find particularly surprising because of the fact that I just think that the pendulum mechanic is just absurd. And when you couple that with the Bearman combo, or even just simply, the actual standard Zoo combo itself with a pendulum deck backing it up with Kirin, is still really strong. And despite this, it only took one top, so that's kind of surprising. Now, another surprise, of course, was the Infernoid variant only taking 3 spots, one of which was actually a pure variant. So this was one of the decks that did not run a Zoo engine, which was one of the 60 card variants here. So as you can see here, there's 2 variants. There's the 2 60 cards and there's 1 40 card. The 40 card ran a Zoo engine. One of the 60 card ran a Zoo engine, which was Billy Break, I believe. And the other one was just pure Infernoids, just nothing but just left arms and grass is greener and just powering through your deck and summoning fucking Infernoids. That's it. That's literally all that is. And there's only 3 spots, which I find extremely surprising because the deck without a doubt has one of the higher ceilings in the game, but obviously does, kind of suffer from consistency issues. But also it's important to understand that if we're going into the first event of a major the first major event of a new format, there's always going to be some kind of a skew towards a little bit of bias, where there's, I guess you can say, representation bias. So most people coming into this event are going to be playing, if you can afford the Zoo engine, you're going to be playing Kaiju Zoo or Pure Zoo for the most part. You're not going to be playing Infernoid. So if 100 people enter an event, you can only expect maybe like 20 of them to be playing Infernoid variants, and the rest of them will probably be playing Kaiju and Pure variants. So there is that kind of dilemma there of, well, how many people do we have here that are actually playing decks in a balanced proportion? If 99 people enter an event with Glad Beasts and one of them enters with fucking Necros, well, Glad Beasts are still going to get tons of tops, aren't they? So it's that's also something to take into consideration, is the idea of representation. So this format is still very young and still a long way to go before we can really get some innovation going. And of course, don't forget, this weekend we have Fusion Enforcers, and then I think like this weekend or the week after we've got another YCS. So there's much room for innovation, much room to see where this deck goes, and how things change over time. My personal prediction was that Infernoid Zoo would be the best go-to deck. Very wrong about it, at least for the first format. We'll see how it turns out over the coming months, assuming that there's no drastic sort of list in place that changes everything on its head. So yeah, getting the main decks out of the way here, everything else is sort of kind of just a little bit of randomness. So we've got like, Pure Zoo with artifacts in the main deck. Basically just playing extra D barriers is what you're doing with that deck. Then we have a Cosmo Zoo deck. I really don't think that's much to mention. I mean, it's just Cosmo with the Zoo deck, and if you do your standard combo with Island and stuff, which you only have one Dart Destroyer now, so I don't know how the fuck you're pulling off that combo consistently enough. But if you do that combo, you can potentially go into Invoker instead of your Levier to go and bring out the Zoo, the Rapier from your deck, and then just go off from there and make a big board of like Infinity and Zoo cards and some other thing it makes as well, like Dark Lady or something like that. So yeah, I mean, you can still do some pretty silly combos with that deck, but is it worth playing going forward? Well, I personally think not, but we'll wait and see. Inferno and the Metal Zoo, kind of already talked about them. And then Minerva Zombies, now a bit of a strange variant here because it's it's Minerva, but it's playing zombies as well. I haven't seen the list, I don't know what it's like, but it's really not surprising at all to expect that this deck would do well as well, just because of the fact that playing rank 4s means that you can, in a deck like Minerva, you can access things like Kagasuchi, which can really fill up your graveyard with important cards like Snow. There's also the idea of the fact that, if you're playing level 3s in your deck now, like Luminas and stuff, you can kind of go into Invoker a little bit easier now if you're playing the Teratop as well, which of course you really should be, but then you can go from Invoker into his different Zoo plays as well from there. Kagasuchi can mill stuff, and then you can mill even more with Minerva, and the world's your oyster at that point, really. When you're playing zombies as well, you got Synchros, so fucking make anything you want, really, with this deck. And next up, we got the Paleo Frog Zoo. This is another interesting pick for this format because traps are very, very popular. Traps are really how you win your games these days. Like, it's a constant chess battle of breaking each other's board and then setting ways to stop them from re-establishing that board. So this format, you can imagine, it's actually really easy to break boards this format. But to be able to make a board, make it stick, is the challenge. So traps really help with that, because you're being able to disrupt their plays after you've gone off yourself. And the one variant that also did not run any Zoo cards, surprisingly enough, we have Pure Burning Abyss. It's the two decks from YCS Seattle didn't play any Zoo cards whatsoever, one of them being the Infernoid 60 card deck that we mentioned, and also Pure Burning Abyss. And it's a 60 card Pure Burning Abyss as well, by the way, so you can find this deck on Asian Persuasion's channel as well. He's got the live profile, I think he's just put it up now, and John Moore from House of Champs also has it on his channel. So I mean, if you haven't seen them already, then you can probably find them there. But that's another kind of interesting one. I wouldn't really call it a sleeper deck. BA is sort of the evil swarm of the modern age, really. There's it just always seems to be someone playing that deck, which is really strange. Why they decided to play pure Burning Abyss instead of Zoo, because you can make Invoker with any 2 Burning Abyss. There's no deck in the game that can make Invoker more consistently than BA, and yet he chose not to play the Zoo variant. So, well, I don't really have anything to say much about that. So, yeah, this has really been your YCS Seattle breakdown. Let me know what you guys think down below, and see you next time.